President Donald Trump has retreated from his earlier pledge to quickly end the war in Ukraine, recently saying that he may not be able to bring the conflict to a close. He has hinted, however, at the possibility of imposing sanctions on Moscow. This comes as Kyiv experienced its largest aerial attack since a full-scale invasion, alongside reports of delayed U.S. missile deliveries and another private call between Trump and Vladimir Putin. Joining us today on TVP World to discuss these developments is Diane Francis, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council and a leading voice on transatlantic policy and Ukraine's future. Hello, ma'am, and welcome to TVP World.
Thank you.
So Trump was asked whether he's still confident that he can find an end to the fighting in Ukraine, to which he replied that he didn't know. He can't tell whether or not it is going to happen. This is, of course, a very stark difference from his usual kind of confident stance and being able to bring this war to an end. Do you think at this point he is just keeping his messaging ambiguous, or do you think the phone calls and the airstrike has changed some calculations within the Trump administration?
Well, I think a number of activities have transpired. And, I actually would probably believe that he is sincere in what he is saying this time, because it does represent a climb down from his boasting that he could fix this situation, which, by the way, hasn't been fixed for centuries. He said that Putin just doesn't want to stop the war. And that is a very important statement. It's not only upsetting, but I think it does make me realize, and should make everybody realize, that there's no more fantasy about, fixing this problem on the part of Trump. And that, he's got to continue to put pressure in whatever way he can, but hasn't been. And so I think it may be helpful. He also had two very important phone calls around the same time, because, Putin has just made a fool out of him, because every time he talks jubilantly about we're getting there or we're talking, he bombs the heck out of Kyiv and the rest of Ukraine. The two most important phone calls I say that's happened today is the call by the Chancellor of Germany, Merz, who, in response to the fact to rumors that the Americans were pausing shipments of weapons to Ukraine, said to Trump, "We will pay for U.S. weapons to go to Ukraine." In other words, it looks like a blank check from the world's third biggest economy, fourth biggest economy, that it will pay the bill just to ensure that weapons keep flowing to Ukraine, and it will also create profits for the United States. The other important phone call he made was to Zelensky, Trump, and they both agreed to jointly work together on industrializing the military situation and working together to make weapons. So it's a change in the whole situation for the alliance.
All right, so I would like to unpack some of these phone calls. Like you mentioned, shortly after the Trump-Putin phone call, Zelensky also spoke with Donald Trump and also expressed optimism afterwards, posting on social media about the continued U.S. support. Do you think that this is more diplomatic lip service, seeing that Zelensky now understands dealing with Trump's mean having to be more cordial when it comes to messaging? Or do you see anything substantial being established there?
Well, I don't want to second guess any of these guys. I don't know whether they're being honest or dishonest or fluffing it up, but just taking it on face, and this is based on statements they've made publicly. Germany is now fully bankrolling Ukraine's war effort, it would appear. And Zelensky is fully endorsing a partnership to make weapons with the United States. So if those two things are as said, that to me is a good thing for Ukraine, because it means Europe has finally understood that they've been handed off the problem.
There's also some conflicting information that we are getting as well when reports circulating that U.S. did halt weapons supplies to Kyiv. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni actually said the U.S. did not hold the weapon shipments to Ukraine after having spoken to Trump. Where's the disconnect coming from?
This is a very weird situation. And of course, you can spin a great conspiracy about it, because the way it looks right now is that this defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, who's been not in favor of the Ukrainian situation or NATO, unilaterally paused the shipment of some weapons to Ukraine in recent days. This is not the first time he's done that, apparently. He's done that before, and each time it was withdrawn, the pause. And he each time claimed, well, our stockpiles of weapons are too low. And research now, the analysts are now saying, no, it's not too low, but it's just him. So, did he purposely try to create a furor to sabotage and get everybody all upset or not? I don't know. Is it just a rookie error? Is this guy just out of control? So that's all very strange. And then equally strange, as you pointed out, you have the Italian Prime Minister Meloni saying, oh, the weapons were never paused. Well, how does she know? And then you had The Economist magazine say at first that all the weapons were paused. And then, of course, we know that that's not true. So the whole thing is just a sort of a disinformation mess. And all I can say is that we can probably conclude that Trump has given up diplomatic efforts with Putin, and he is now going to realize that it's got to be military and weapons, and Germany's going to pay for it.
And it does seem like Trump is going to try and tackle the Russia issue economically as well. He says that, well, Putin understands U.S. sanctions, biting sanctions, according to Trump, may be coming, and he's already worried about it. Now, of course, this is another step of kind of trying to pressure Russia. Do you think this will be effective, and how committed do you think Washington will be when it comes to sanctioning Russia?
Well, with Trump, you really don't know. He's on again, off again. But sanctions by the Americans against the Russians is long overdue. I mean, he unleashed a boatload of sanctions against every country in the world except Russia. And, he's got to do that. The second thing is that, the Europeans also have to get their act together. Last year, the Europeans spent more money importing Russian gas and oil than they did giving military assistance to Ukraine. That's crazy. So that's got to stop. That's got to stop immediately. And that's a huge subsidy to the war. And, there's also a bill in the Congress that would impose enormous levies on Russian oil customers. Which may or may not happen. So all of these pressures have to be brought to bear. But at the end of the day, Putin will not voluntarily end his war. He thinks he's winning it. He doesn't care about casualties. He even doesn't care about his economy. But regardless, he has to be damaged. They have to be pressured, and Ukraine has to be supported fully.
All right, last but not least, like you mentioned, it does seem like Germany and Europe is bankrolling weapon supplies to Ukraine as of the moment. Do you think that this is sustainable and will be enough to make up for the losses with the U.S. pulling out?
Well, I don't think the U.S. is going to pull out completely. I just don't see that, because when this rumor came out that some of the weapons had been paused, there was hell broke loose in Congress, both parties in the United States, saying, what are you doing? You can't do this. Ukraine needs all the help it can get, and so on and so forth. So I don't think that, they're going to pull out completely. But just in case, Europe has to be prepared to do whatever it can. And first thing they should do is cut off the fossil fuel imports, and then, double up every effort they have toward helping Ukraine with weapons.
All right. Thank you so much for your input and insight. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World News Tonight. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.